Hello, this is Trend with Fridays. Today we're gonna talk about fertilizers. There are many different fertilizers on the market. I'm sure that people are very confused because which one to go with and how do I know what functionality this fertilizer perform and to suit my need. So today we're gonna talk about that. The fertilizer topic can really go very extensively even across the industry of hydroponics and traditional soil-based gardening. So because it's so massive and so extensive, today I'm only gonna be talking about traditional soil-based fertilizer and what you should know about them. First of all, before we start talking about fertilizer, we have to first talk about macronutrients. Macro means those are the most fundamental nutrients that any plants, any trees, shrubs, annuals, houseplants, they need, which is NPK. You might have seen those three letters appeared on the packaging on some of the fertilizers you see on the market. So for example, the three numbers over here stands for NPK. Some packagings will note them clearly on the bottle. This one, three numbers is 111. Some might not address them clearly, like right off the bat, but for example, this one, you can't really see a number on the front, but if you turn the package, you should always be able to find the three numbers somewhere on the packaging. And those three numbers stands for N for your nitrogen, P for your phosphorus, and K for your potassium. Again, NPK. Those are the three most fundamental and essential macronutrients that any plants would need, and you should be understanding what they are for and how they work. So first letter N. N stands for nitrogen. Nitrogen is really essential to any plant growth across the board. It really contributes to mainly plants growing mass, growing size. So more branches, more leaves, bigger branches, bigger leaves, and bigger size, taller height. That all contributes to vegetative growth, which depended on nitrogen. P stands for your phosphorus. So phosphorus is this middle number of the three number. So the middle number, P, stands for phosphorus. And phosphorus mostly are in charge of developing buds and flowering. So if you have a blooming bush or you have a flowering plant, you're done with growing leaves, you're done looking at the green branches and the leaves, and you want to promote more flowers and to help the plant to develop more buds, you need to go with a fertilizer that is more leaning towards the middle number to be higher, which you have more phosphorus in your fertilizer. So when you supplement phosphorus into the soil, to the plant, that's really gonna give them what they need to develop the flower buds and blooming ability. The third letter, K, stands for potassium. So potassium is also really fundamental as one of the most important macronutrients out of the three. So potassium, basically, in my own words, I would describe it to it's in charge of the water movements and the transportation of the water in plants. So for the overall development, plants uptake nutrients and water through the root zone, and then it sends systemically through the entire mass of the plant, including sends through all the branches, sends through all the leaves. So potassium helps that relocation, transportation of the water. And you know that it's not just water being transported and sent through across the mass of the plant. The water always contains nutrients. So with the nutrients from the soil, with the nutrients in the fertilizer that you supply, it's all mixed in the water. So when you have a good potassium in your soil or you supplement potassium, it gives the plant more capability to be able to uptake nutrients with the water and send it through across the whole plant mass. And overall, it really helps the growth and the development of the plant. So one more thing I want to mention about potassium is that it works incredibly similar on human bodies as well as on plants. So potassium, when it works on our human bodies, it can offset some heavy sodium based harmful effect on our body. So for example, if you go to a restaurant that you had a dinner, the dinner was really salty, and the next day you probably feel your body is just so heavy because it holds on to the sodium holds on to water really well. So if you intake a lot of salt, which is sodium, and then you drink water because you feel really thirsty, that water is going to be retained in your body and being held there. The way to get rid of this excess of water is to intake some potassium rich food such as banana, such as honeydew melon or cantaloupes, as well as cooked spinach and so on and so forth. So the potassium helps the water to move throughout your body just like it does with the plant. It helps to keep the water movement in the body going. And as the water going, then it flushes out the waste of your body. So the extra sodium, extra toxins can be flushed out through different ways, in either sweat or either go to bathroom with that. But in plant, potassium does the same thing, is help the nutrients in being float around freely across the entire mass of the plant, and then it really helps the plant overall health and development. So when you are looking at choosing a fertilizer to go with to feed your plant, how you choose it? So I concluded two different ways and to go about when you decide which of the fertilizer would be the best to go with. First is depends on the plant. What kind of the plant you're trying to feed? Is this an annual flower? Is it a outdoor perennials or trees or shrubs? Or is this like a house plant? What kind of the plant is gonna set a tone for which kind of the fertilizer you're gonna go about? Second is what kind of specific target and what kind of the goal you want to achieve with feeding this plant. Do you want this plant to grow bigger? And do you want this plant to flower better? Some people complain about their plants just grow leaves and stems and there's just absolutely no bloom. Now, this could be a specifically reason. When you shop for fertilizer, you need to know those two reasons. One is which kind of the plant you're trying to feed. Second is what kind of the goal you want to achieve by feeding the plant. So I have few samples over here I wanted to just use and to show you. One is I have a blood meal over here. So people have heard of blood meal all day long, but do you really know what is blood meal and what it does to your plant? So the packaging is definitely gonna say some details about lush growth and a deep green, but what I really suggest you to focus on is to focus on the macronutrients, which is NPK. So if you turn the package, you will be able to see the three numbers over here. It's 1200. So which means this blood meal only has nitrogen. Remember, first letter is N for nitrogen. So it has 12 parts of nitrogen and a 0 part of the phosphorus and a 0 parts of the potassium. So this blood meal in general, that it tells me it promotes growth. So if you want your plant to grow the mass, to become bigger, to become taller, to become bushier, you want to go heavy with the nitrogen. So blood meal will be a really good option if you want to achieve that goal. And on the other hand, I have one that is called triple phosphate. So triple phosphate here, if you turn the package, you will be able to see the number is 0450. So it's just almost the opposite as the blood meal. The first number, nitrogen, is 0, which means it's not going to contribute too much in growing the mass in the leaves and in the stems and all that. However, the middle number, phosphorus, is 45. That is extremely high in phosphorus. So this phosphate, and the name actually says quite a bit of it. So phosphate mostly is going to promote your flower. It's going to promote the buds and the flowering. Then you look at the packaging, all those marketing words. So here says bigger, faster blooms. So again, it verifies our reading over here with the NPK numbers. So you only have a phosphorus in this triple phosphate. It's not going to have much of the nitrogen at all except what's already involved in the soil, and it's not going to have much of the potassium from this bag, but mostly what's in your current ground soil already. But when you apply this triple phosphate, it's gonna really boost up your phosphorus content and to promote the flower. So if you do want your plant not so much for growing the leaves and the stems and all the greens, you want it to actually grow more flowers and develop more buds and blooms, middle number is the way to go. And again, don't just go by this specific product. There are other products with the same brand or with different brands and all have the same formula. Don't go with the brand and go with what you read and based on the scientific values of those NPKs. Another one I want to show you over here is this. This is a Dr. Earth a flower garden fertilizer. So you can see the number over here is 484. So it tells me, say NPK, those three numbers, it has all, but the middle number, phosphorus, it has a two parts and double the volume of the potassium and nitrogen in this bag. So again, that's why this product name is called a flower garden fertilizer, because the phosphorus is high. Phosphorus is for promoting flowers and buds. So there are other kinds of the fertilizers on the market, and you might see I haven't talked about some liquid fertilizer, and over here I have a Dr. Earth all-purpose liquid fertilizer concentrate, and the numbers over here is 111. And you might see some fertilizers in dry forms or in liquid forms also have the same number. Some might be 10 10 10, some might be 20 20 20. So when you have the same equal number of those NPK values, it means this is a all-rounded all-purpose fertilizer. And basically you can't go wrong. You can't go wrong with this kind of the all-purpose fertilizer. But that doesn't mean you just go buy whatever like an all-purpose fertilizer to go with. But again, once you know what those three numbers do and how they specifically work towards a specific target you're trying to achieve, you can cherry pick the fertilizers that really works towards your goal. And sometimes you might be seeing fertilizers like this, and it is a despite of the NPK number, this one is a water-soluble plant food. So the one I just showed you over here, these fertilizers, they're not water soluble, which means you're not supposed to dissolve them in the water, and they're not going to dissolve really well. They're meant to be applied dry, and every time when you water it, and it helps to take them down into the soil and fertilize and feed the roots. However, when you have a water soluble fertilizer like this, and they're designed for mixing with water, and you should always use water soluble fertilizer with water instead of applying them dry, because the concentration might be too high to burn your roots. So it's really easy. You just like you make a drink, right? And you pour some powder into a container, you mix that with water, depends on the ratio, and then you just water it in. And these kind of the solutions can be applied through the roots and drench, or you can put in a spray bottle and spray the foliage. Plants absorb nutrients in two ways, mostly through the roots, through the rhizosome, and some plants can also absorb nutrients quite well through the foliage. So that's about the water-soluble fertilizer over here. And of course, for the marketing purposes, a lot of companies come up with the different kinds of the different kinds of the fertilizers. Like this one is a slow releasing fertilizer. You probably have seen those little BBs in some of the nursery pots that you bought from the garden center. So basically this is a slow releasing, means once you put this in the pot, it's not gonna dissolve really quickly. It's gonna stay there for a while, almost like a hard candy, right? So when you suck on a hard candy, it's not gonna dissolve right away, melt in your mouth. It's gonna slowly melt down, and as time goes by. So again, many different kinds of the fertilizers in different kinds of forms and shapes and prices on the market, but don't be confused and don't be frustrated by different varieties. And the marketing, the marketing really dominates the market, and to be diversified and to give you all these options. But always follow one rule: is the macronutrients, NPK, they don't change. So depends on what you want to achieve. You want more growth, go with N, that is pretty high. You want more flower, go with the P, the middle number, phosphorus, to be kind of high. If you want overall good development, go with the potassium. I have to back up a little bit is before you go out and start shopping for nutrients, you should and you really should do a soil test. So if you don't know what your NPK level is at, you really can't go out and say, hey, I'm short on nitrogen or I'm short on phosphorus, so give me more phosphorus. We really recommend that you go about and just first starting with testing your soil. So a kit like this, it's not really expensive. It's only, like in the teens. Just to spend some money and to do your test of soil. Then you know what's your nitrogen level, you know what's your phosphorus levels and your potassium level. Here, the 4 of those testing for pH, NPK. So once you have your soil tested and you can really be very well informed and clear about what are you trying to do and what kind of the fertilizer that you should be getting in order to achieve specifically what you're looking for. So that's what we have right now for fertilizer, specifically towards the soil-based gardening. And in a different episode, I'm trying to talk about fertilizer and nutrients in hydroponics, which can be another whole can of worms, but we're talking about that next time. If you have questions, I'm sure that I have not covered every single possible aspect. So if you have questions or if you need a reminder in your specific personal case, let us know. Drop us a line, send us a message, and we will get you the answer. Thank you for watching today. Have a great day.